Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. For me, we spent the whole time between Christmas and New Year's just at home in our pajamas, watching movies, eating finger food. My husband had the whole week off in between Christmas and New Year's. My sister also had the whole week off, so she was here the whole time. It was a quiet Christmas for us, but it was so nice. We loved it. And now I feel like properly rested and ready to start the new year and get back into work and everything. So I'm very thankful for that time of rest. It wasn't as busy as it usually is for us. So I was happy about it actually this year. I did get a lot of knitting done last month, which is what I wanted to talk about today. I have a few things that I completed, a few projects that I finished, and then I currently have two things that I'm working on now, which I wanted to share with you. The first thing that I completed is actually the Wednesday sweater from Petite Knit. I showed this last time as something that I was working on, a work in progress. And last time I had said that what was kind of holding me back from working on it was the fact that even though all of the yarn that I got for this project was the same color and the same dye lot, I triple checked the dye lots. The lady at the yarn store checked the dye lots to make sure they were all the same. Even though it's the same color and same dye lot, clearly there's a couple different colors happening here. And that's just not what I wanted for this sweater. And so what was keeping me from knitting it, working on it, was the fact that I didn't think that I would actually wear it once it was done. But actually, after I made the last video sharing about this, it kind of motivated me to just get it done so that I'd have those needles cleared and ready for other projects. So that's what I did. I only had to do, I think I only had to do one more sleeve in the neck last time, which didn't really take me that long. Yeah, so this is the Wednesday sweater by Petite Knit. I made it with the Briggs & Little Atlantic 3-ply yarn. It's 100% wool. And let me tell you, this thing is heavy. I think next time, if I were to make this sweater again, I would not choose this yarn. It's just so thick. Honestly, it felt like I was kind of fighting the yarn the whole time, which was another reason I wasn't super excited to work on it. Yeah, it just felt like, I don't know, it just wasn't sliding easily on the needles. I had to really work to get in the stitches every time. So yeah, I don't know if I would work with this yarn again for this sweater. They advertise this yarn, Briggs & Little advertises this yarn as something that'd be really good for outerwear, almost like a jacket, I guess. And that's not what I was going for this sweater. However, if I think of this as an outerwear piece, I definitely think it's better for that. It's kind of stiff even after blocking. It did soften up a little bit, but not to the point where I would actually want to wear it. I don't think I'm going to wear it, not only because of the color difference, but because of the yarn choice. It's just so heavy on. I like the pattern. I liked the neck, although this yarn made the neck very thick, and I didn't like the look of it on. I might have done it a little bit too long. A mixture of it being a bit too long and this yarn being super thick made it so I didn't really love the look that it gave of the turtleneck. I did like the sleeves. I like the body. It has a split hem on the bottom. It's also, I don't think I said it's a drop shoulder construction. And yes, there's a split hem on the bottom, which I'm a fan of. I like it. I think I would try this pattern again. I just don't know. I don't know. There's just so many other patterns out there that I want to try. I don't know if I would actually like go back and do this one again. I just don't really love the mixture of the specific yarn I chose, along with the color change that I didn't intend on happening. I think even if I were to over dye this, I don't know if I'd actually wear it. I just didn't love the way it looked on. I don't know. I'm just going to say this was a project to like help me with technique. I did short rows for the first time in this. It was my first sweater pattern, actually. Like I hadn't made a sweater before this. So everything was a first for me in this pattern. I think this was the first time I did twisted ribbing, which I do love the look of. I love the look of the twisted rib more than just like a regular 1x1 rib. I do quite like that. I also tried the Italian bind off to make it stretchy around the cuffs and the neck edge, and I enjoyed that. My first time doing a drop shoulder. I think I did a pretty good job picking up the stitches for the sleeves. I think it looks pretty neat. And this shoulder, it's been so long since I made this. I don't know how this was actually constructed. Like, but this was kind of like a seam thing on the shoulder. I'm happy with how it looks. I think it looks neat. I just don't think I'll actually ever wear this. So I'm just taking this as I got to practice some different techniques. I got to practice using a new type of yarn that was new to me, and I'll be happy with that. Will I rip it out? I don't know, because I don't know what I would use this yarn for. It's so thick. If I think of something I can use that yarn for, I might rip it out. If someone comes along that really likes this sweater and it fits them, I would just give it to them, I think, before I would rip it all out. So we'll see what happens with that. It was a really fun project for, like, if I change my mindset and not think about like the product of it, if I think of like just practicing different techniques, then I think it was really fun. The next thing I completed was a mohair bow. I wanted to make this for Christmas. It's not in a bow shape now, but I'll put a picture of what it looks like in the bow. I ended up just tying it to a hair tie and then putting it in my hair. I wanted that for Christmas. I wanted a red fuzzy bow to wear around Christmas. I thought it'd be really festive. And this is exactly what I wanted. I didn't want it to be too big. I was debating between doing, so the one that I ended up doing, it's called the Mohair Bows by Millie Murphy, although this was very loosely followed the pattern because I didn't have enough. I was debating between that one or something similar to the December Bow by Petite Knit. And the reason I didn't do the December bow is because I didn't want it to be so big, or I didn't want the fabric to look heavy, I guess. I wanted it to be very light and fluffy, and that's exactly what I got with this pattern. So the pattern that I very loosely followed was the Mohair Bow by Millie Murphy. And I like it because she has a couple different options for this pattern. And you could choose to do a single strand of mohair, double strand, or a triple strand. So what I did for this pattern was I had a little bit of a couple different kinds of mohair, both from the same brand, I believe, because there were no tags, or there's one tag for one, not for the other one, but they were the exact same color. So I assumed that they were from the same brand. The one that I did have the tag for was the Rowan Kid Silk Aura. Is that the thicker one? Yeah, Rowan Kid Silk Aura, which is a silk mohair blend, but it's quite thick. So it ended up being about the same as like holding a single strand of mohair triple. So yeah, quite a bit thicker than just the regular mohair that I've seen. And I obviously didn't have enough to make the full pattern, what I ended up doing was, I think I only did one of the increases, maybe two of the increases that's written in the pattern, and then just knit it straight until it was, I didn't even have enough to do the length that she recommended. But I did it so it would actually make a bow. And then I did one or two decreases, whatever was in the pattern, and ended it there. I like this pattern. It's just, you can't really see it very well in the mohair because it's so fuzzy, but it's just garter stitch in the middle with I-cord details on the edge. I did the I-cord differently than the pattern, more similar to if you've done the Sophie shawl. I'm assuming it's the same style of I-cord edging as the Sophie scarf as well. If you've done that, I did the I-cord similar to that, but with 2 stitches instead of, I believe that one is 3. The way that the mohair bows pattern wants you to do the I-cord edging is different from that, and my gauge was a little bit looser on one side than the other, so it looked off. So that's why I just switched back to, I ripped it all out and then switched to what I knew looked good from the Sophie shawl that I did last year. Back to the yarn for this. So I said that I had a little bit of the Rowan Kid Silk Aura, which was very thick, a thick strand of mohair and silk together. And then I had a teeny tiny bit of the, what I believe to be the Rowan Kid Silk Haze. I didn't have a label for it, so I'm just guessing. But I got them together from a bunch of mohair that my grandma had before she passed. And they're the exact same color, so I believe it to be the Rowan Kid Silk Haze because it looks the same thickness as the other Kid Silk Hazes that I had from that little bundle that did have their ball band on them. So I believe it to be the Kid Silk Haze. And what I ended up doing was, once the Aura ran out, the thicker stuff, once that ran out, then first I tried to double strand the Kid Silk Haze, but that was too loose. It didn't, you could really tell a difference from where I stopped the Aura and started the Haze. So then I ripped that back out and then triple stranded it, and that worked a lot better. I'm trying to see where actually the change happened. I think it only happened like, oh, I don't know. It's so hard to tell because it's so fuzzy. I think it only happened at the very end here. Maybe you can see like a little bump here. Oh, it doesn't want to focus. That might be where I joined the two. Like I said, I had just like a teeny tiny amount. That got me like maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches. And that actually worked out really well. I can't tell that I used 2 different, or maybe, no, it wasn't down here. I can't tell that I used 2 different yarns. Plus, like, once it's all in a bow and like in your hair, you can't tell. I want to try this pattern again with the proper amount of mohair so that I can actually make it a little bit wider and a little bit longer. The bow that I made was good for like what I wanted it to be, but I would like maybe my next one to be a little bit more, have a bit more drama, I guess, or yeah, just be a little bit bigger. I would definitely recommend this pattern, although I would maybe suggest switching up how you do the I-cord edging if you notice the tension is weird on one side versus the other, or that it's just like a little bit different. But yeah, I really like that pattern. And then the next thing that I completed, I started and finished, was this balaclava. I had said in my what I want to knit in the winter video that I wanted to knit something similar to the balaclava #1 by My Favorite Things. And this I didn't actually follow a specific pattern for. I really liked the garter rib that the Balaclava #1 has, but I didn't love the just 1x1 rib. I think it's just 1x1 rib around the face and neck. I wanted something like twisted rib or half twisted rib, which is what I ended up doing. I very loosely followed a free Balaclava pattern, but then switched out the pattern, like the stitch pattern in that pattern for a garter rib. I think that's what it's called, a garter rib pattern. So it would look similar to my favorite things knitwear Balaclava. What I ended up doing, I can tell you because I made it up. So I started with the top panel by casting on 24 stitches. So you're starting here. Then I did, oh, right, I forgot about this. This gave me a lot of grief. My tension was so weird on this. I don't know if it's because I used a smaller needle size than was recommended for this yarn. I always forget that. This is the yarn that I used. Payton's Classic Wool, or Patons. It's 100% pure new wool in the color cherry. And I used just over a full skein of this. So just over 100 grams. And it says it's recommended to use size 4.5 millimeter needles. And I did size 4 millimeters. So I don't know if it was looking weird because I was using a smaller needle than what was recommended for it. But when I started this, I was having such weird tension issues. It just looked so lumpy, bumpy. The knit stitches, like on the knit rows or the knit lines, I guess, the garter looked fine. No matter what I did, it looked fine. But the knit stitches in between looked so like one leg would be really loose and the other one would be really tight. And then some of them looked like twisted in, like it spun a bit more. I don't know how to describe it, but it was not looking good. And I tried a few different methods, like looking up videos, how to fix your tension in ribbing or ribbing that's flat, because I thought maybe it's because I'm working, you work the top part flat back and forth. And I thought maybe because it's not in the round, it's being weird. So I tried a few different things to fix my tension and nothing really worked. In the end, I did, on the right side rows, I knit all of the stitches through the back loop. So all of the knit stitches in this pattern were knit through the back loop. That makes my knit stitches tighter and, in my opinion, neater. Then on the wrong side, I would slip the first stitch purlwise, purl 2 clockwise. So I find my purl stitches look a lot neater if I'm an English knitter, so I throw the yarn over, and I find my purl stitches look a lot neater, and there's less of like a slack, I guess, between, like if you're going from purl to knit or knit to purl, there's less of that like excess yarn if I go clockwise around my needle rather than counterclockwise when I'm doing a purl stitch. So then I would purl 2 clockwise, knit 2 through the back loop, purl 2 clockwise, knit 2 through the back loop as the pattern for the wrong side. And then at the very last stitch, I would slip that stitch with slip the last stitch knitwise with the yarn in front. And the reason why I did that, those edge slip stitches, was so that there would be a clean line when I when I went to pick up for the sides. That helped my tension a lot. Like, it doesn't look nearly as bad as it did before, but you can still see, I don't know if it's just the yarn or if it's this garter rib pattern, but it is still kind of like, you can see the knit stitches just aren't totally perfect. Some of the legs look looser than others. I don't know, but it got to a point where I was happy with it. So then what I did was I just repeated that pattern until I got to, how long did I do? 17 centimeters, ending on a wrong side row. Then I broke the yarn, picked up 29 stitches, knit across the back, and then picked up 29 more. I also knit 2 together, or slip knit, that the last like slipped stitches on the end. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. So that when I went over, they would be gone. There wouldn't be a random extra stitch. And then I just continued the pattern all the way down to the length that I wanted. Then I switched to a half twisted rib. I believe I did half twisted rib. I knit through the back loop and then purled regularly. Well, my regular, throwing the yarn clockwise. And I'm really happy with how it looks. I love how twisted rib looks. Although, I think it's, for some reason, it's kind of slanted. Has this happened to anyone? Where it doesn't go just straight down. It wants to slant that way. And even after blocking, it stayed wanting to slant over in the direction, I guess, that I was turning it, because I was knitting in the round. And then for this, I did also switch to 2.75 millimeter needles, which is so much smaller. Did I do that? Maybe I have a feeling I didn't actually use 4 millimeter needles. I have a feeling I used 3, and then I switched to 2.75. I think I wrote that down wrong. I think I used 3 millimeter needles for the main part of this, and then switched to 2.75 here. I gotta fix that, although I guess I don't really know. In my head, I remembered being like, did I even have to go down like a quarter of a needle size to do the ribbing? But then in my notes, it's more than that. Maybe use a 3.75 millimeter needle. I don't know. Oh, goodness. Oh, and I did, before I started the ribbing, I backward loop cast on 18 stitches so that it would be under my chin. And then I just did the twisted rib until it was 3 inches long. And I kind of wish I had gone a little bit longer, but it felt like I was fighting the yarn and I just wanted it to be done. Then I did a stretchy bind off. I think I did Italian bind off, just so that it'd be stretchy enough to fit over my head. Then I picked up all around the opening to do the ribbing for the face. This, I think if I want it to fit better, I think I might, or fit the way I want it to, I might take this part out and redo it with more stitches, because I ended up I picked up every single stitch for around the like chin area, and then I did, because you have like a slip stitch edge here, I think when you just pick up those loops, I think you're technically doing 1 for every 2 rows. I think that's right, because you do a slip stitch and then you knit it the next row. So that's 2 rows, but 1 like loop, I guess. So, and I didn't do all of them. I think I did 4 out of every 5 maybe that I picked up, and I feel like it's a little bit too tight around my face. I didn't want it to be super tight. I mean, for a balaclava, that's good for it to like keep the air out, keep the wind out. But it does seem a little bit tight around my face. And it's pretty stretched out, which I don't love the look of. I prefer it to look like this twisted rib. Oh, and I did the ribbing in twisted rib around the face opening. In the end, I'm really pleased with it because I did, I just made it up. I did loosely follow a free pattern. I guess I should tell you what pattern it was, just a sec. Okay, so the free pattern that I pretty loosely followed, I mainly just did it to see like how a balaclava was constructed. Is called BB Balaclava by Jung Min Choi. So I didn't follow the recommended like yarn or needle size. Or the pattern. I just did it to see like how a balaclava was constructed. And then from there, I just used my own, what I thought would look nice. And I'm happy with it. I tested it out. I went for a walk in the woods yesterday and it was pretty cold actually. And I was warm the whole time. So I'm happy with this. The only thing I might go back and change is I might go back and rip the, like around the opening out and pick up more stitches so that it's not as tight or not as like stretched out, I guess. Other than that, I'm quite happy with it. So those were the 3 things that I finished last month, and I have 2 things I'm working on. First thing I have talked about before, which is the made up, or I guess like the self-drafted, I guess, blanket pattern that I'm making for my son. I'm using Cascade Yarns Eco Plus, 100% Peruvian Highland wool. I was looking for that. It is in the color number 2445. It's this beautiful green color. And since last time, I have finished the middle panel. So I explained last time, this is just in a seed stitch. I'm just doing seed stitch back and forth on, I don't even know what size the needle is. Where's... The needle size is 5 millimeters. And basically what I'm doing is I'm making 2 large panels and 2 wider panels and then 1 thinner panel. And I'm gonna seam them together and that will be the blanket. So I officially have one of the outside panels and the middle panel complete. This, I don't know how great or like how perfect it's gonna look in the end because I didn't count the number of rows that I did on this. I just knit till I was done 2 balls of the yarn. So I just knit until the 2 were complete. My logic was I'll do 2 like that, like knit through 2, knit through 2. Those will be 2 panels. And then I had 1 other ball that I would knit half the amount of stitches and then the whole ball. And that would be the same length. It was not. I was nearing the end of my yarn allotted for this middle panel. And it was not nearly as long as my pre-blocking measurement of the first panel. Thank goodness I took a pre-blocking measurement before for this panel, because otherwise I don't know what I would do. It was not nearly long enough. So I ended up having to use the yarn that I had left over. I think I left like 3 panel lengths of yarn that I could use to like seam it up. But I ended up having to put that into this panel to make it as long as this one. I got my husband to count the number of rows because I didn't want to, and he so kindly did. But then when I got to less than the number of rows on this, it was longer than the pre-blocking measurement. So I don't know how this is gonna be. I might just reblock everything and try to dry them in the same length before I seam them up. Also, that means because I used the seaming yarn in the middle panel, I'm going to have to use a different color yarn for the seams, which I'm okay with. I think I'm going to use a really nice, like creamy white yarn to seam those two seams that I'll have to put in. Anyway, I started the last panel. I cast that on right away. That was kind of a funny evening because I finished this and I had also finished my sweater and I had nothing else on the go for knitting projects. And I felt so lost. I'm like, I have nothing on my needles right now. I don't know what to do. I didn't really have anything in mind at that moment that I wanted to cast on. So it was such a weird feeling. I felt a little lost. So the next morning, I just right away cast on the final panel for this project. I calculated it out. I think I had to knit between 4 and 5 inches a week if I want to get this done before my son's birthday. That's my goal now. That's my goal, to get it done for his birthday, which is in May. And I don't know, I think so far it's going pretty good. I didn't work on it for the past, since before Christmas. So it's been almost 2 weeks. So we'll see how this goes. The reason that I haven't been knitting on that blanket is because I have been working on this. I'm so proud. This is the Arctic Light Sweater by Veronica Lindberg, or Kutava Kika. I am so excited about this. I finished just 2 days ago, I think. I finished the yoke and have started, I put the sleeves on hold and I'm just doing the body now. This is a beautiful all over cable pattern. You start at the neck and then you work down to like kind of right here on the shoulders, and then you put the sleeve stitches on hold, you knit the body, and then you knit the sleeves and you're done. I just think this is, okay, my phone ran out of storage, so I had to delete a few things. But I was talking about the sweater. I think it's just so stunning. I love the cable motifs that she chose to use in this pattern. The beautiful braided one down the middle. There's these baubles on either side. And then my favorite cable, I messed up the first one, but this cable that goes along the arms, I love this one. I did mess up on the very first round of it. You can see here where I was following her video tutorials for this. And for every single cable, before I did the first one, I watched her do it on her tutorial video for it. This was the last, I believe this was the last cable that you had to do like for the first time. And when I got to it in the chart, I read it and I'm like, oh, this looks so similar to some of the other cables, symbols that she's used. I know what she means. I didn't even go and like read what it said in the pattern to do for the cable. I just looked at the symbol and I was like, yeah, I know what this means. And I did it and I was like, this looks a little weird. Like it doesn't look like the cable motif in the pictures that she has of the sweater. Maybe it's one of those things where, you know, like as you're knitting it, like when you first do it, it looks a little weird, and then you do a couple more rows and you're like, oh, I see it now. It's like a trust the process sort of thing. That's what I thought it would be. But as you can see, I did where is it? That was not actually what happened. So you're supposed to take, you know, 2 of these twisted knit stitch lines and cable them over 2 other ones. And as you can see here, I crossed one over one and then one over another one, so they didn't stay together. I debated going back and ripping it out, but by the time that I like came to terms with like, no, that's not the way it's supposed to look, like you did that cable wrong, I was already, I think, I was already past like the next repeat of that cable. And I know in the grand scheme of this sweater, it wouldn't have been that much time to rip it back and redo it correctly. But I thought that would just really demotivate me from knitting on this. And I was having such a fun time getting to the next row, the next pattern, the next increase. I love the raglan increase seams, or the detail here. So pretty. So yeah, I will just have to live with that first, round of that particular cable as being wrong. I'm okay with it, I think. I don't think, once it's done, I don't think you'll really notice. I don't even know if I would really notice once it was done. I love the double folded collar on this. I just sewed it down a couple of days ago, and it really has made it look like a sweater. Before it had like, well, it was just double this length and just kind of loose, and now it's like, oh, this is like a nice solid collar. I really love it. I love that it's twisted rib. I have said before, I like the look of twisted rib better than just regular 1x1 rib. I like 2x2 rib as well, but I think I like twisted rib the best. Towards the end of the yoke, I was getting pretty tired of, I think you end up with the size I'm knitting. I'm doing size large. I think there is like 450-ish stitches, and I didn't want to switch to or like add another cable because I knew I was so close to putting the sleeve stitches on hold, and then I'd have to go back to a smaller cable. So it was just like, it was so tight moving the stitches along, and everything was all bunchy and weird. And then as soon as I put the sleeve stitches on hold, I was like, oh, this is such a pretty sweater. I love it. So that's why I haven't been knitting on anything else, because I've just been working exclusively on this. I didn't even say what I'm using. I have these 2 yarns. Where did the tags go? So the main one is Briggs & Little Regal yarn. It's a 2-ply 100% pure wool in color 03 bleached white. And I'm holding it with a mohair, which is the Drops Kid Silk mohair, color 01, which I believe was either white or off-white. I don't remember what color it actually was. And I am really loving the way these look together. It's soft, but not like so soft that you can't see the cables. Obviously, the cables look really nice, I think, in this yarn combination. Yeah, so I'm loving this yarn combo so far. I was hesitant to try the Briggs & Little brand of yarn again because I had such a negative experience with my first sweater, right? So I was a little hesitant to try it again, but I held up all of the skeins of yarn that I got for this project in like bright direct sunlight, and I didn't see any color variations. I also thought and I mean, of course, I got them all in the same dye lot. I also thought that if there was some slight variations, maybe having the mohair with it would hide it a little bit more than just having it by itself. I'm on my 3rd skein of this, and I don't notice any color differences. So far so good. And I'm actually quite liking it. Briggs & Little yarn is really accessible to me. It's offered in like a wide variety of options at a few different places that are pretty close by to me. So that's why I've been using it, even though I had a negative experience with the Wednesday sweater. I love it. Yeah, so that's all I'm working on right now. That my son's blanket and then my Arctic Light sweater. I will say back to this, I can't stop talking about it. The like kind of like underarm and like side body is done in double seed stitch, or is it double moss stitch? I don't remember. But it's like the where you like knit one, purl one for 2 rows, and you purl one, knit one for 2 rows. So it's like double, not just it's like not like this where it's just knit one, purl one, and then next row purl one, knit one. I'm not sure I love the way it looks. It reminds me of, or maybe it's just my tension. It reminds me of that one type of coral that kind of looks like a brain. I'm liking it more as it grows and gets longer. But yeah, I think it'll just always remind me of that like brainy looking coral. Whatever, it's on the inside, you won't really see it. I did get a few knitting related items last month that I want to share with you. First 2 were from the thrift store actually, and I was so happy when I found these. They're 2 sets of ChiaoGoo circular needles. This one is a 4.5 millimeter, 60 inch or 150 centimeter. And it's the red lace one, that's the kind I use. I have the interchangeable needle set from them, and I love it. I love it so much. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh, I gotta get it. And these were just $1 each. And then this kind I hadn't seen before. It's a 2.5 millimeter, 80 centimeter bamboo needle, which I didn't even know they did. The cord looks more like a wire, I guess. It looks like really sturdy. And I got them both because I tend to use 4.5, like in between 4 and 5 millimeter needles. That's what I've been using the most for, I guess, garments. And then I do like to use a 2.5 millimeter for socks. I don't know if this will be long enough to do magic loop, the magic loop method for socks, which is what I like doing, but I thought I'd try it out. It was only $1. I also got a fabric shaver for my knitted items because I have noticed some pilling, especially in my socks. So I just got it from Amazon. It's just a battery operated one and it works great. I took all the pills off my socks and I look brand new. And then the last thing I got were a whole bunch of light bulb shaped safety pins that I like to use for stitch markers. This set came with, I think 500, but they're all in different colors, like a bronzy color, black, gold, gold, silver. And then the last one I thought was pink, but I think it's actually copper. And I like this type of stitch marker because it is removable. Is that how you say it? Like it's not like sealed. You can open and close it. So I can use it as a stitch marker. I could use it as like a progress tracker. And I like the light bulb style safety pins because they're so thin. I had been using some thicker plastic stitch markers that came with my ChiaoGoo interchangeable knitting needle set, but I didn't like how thick they were. I felt like it messed up the tension for where in between those 2 stitches that the stitch marker was between. I felt like it just made it a little bit looser. In the end, I could never really tell where the stitch marker was placed in any of my projects that I used those, but while I was working on it, I was always like paranoid that you could see like a little loose gap kind of where those thicker stitch markers were. So I like that these are so thin. They'll be good for whatever project I do, I think. I forgot to mention that over the Christmas week, I was feeling very festive with my knitting because I was working on this green blanket, this red balaclava, and this white sweater. And so at anything that I picked up, it was festive. And when I had everything kind of like sitting in my knitting pile, it looked so Christmassy. I loved it. So that's everything for me this month. I'm really looking forward to working more on my Arctic Light sweater. I don't have anything in mind right now that I'm like feeling like I need to cast on because I just want to work on that sweater. So hopefully I get a lot of work done on that this month, as well as keep chugging along on this blanket. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful start to your new year. Today was the first properly sunny day since before Christmas for sure, but honestly, since like almost the start of December for us here. It's been just so gray, overcast, rainy. It rained almost every day between Christmas and New Year's here. And so when the sun was out this morning, I was like, we got to get outside and go for a walk in the forest and kick the soccer ball around and do everything outside because, oh, we just needed the sun. And yeah, now I feel really energized, ready for the week. I hope you all have a wonderful month, and I will see you next time.